Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be learning factoring by grouping. And the cool thing is if you've watched my video on factoring trinomials of a greater than 1, this is actually kind of covered inside of that video because we were factoring by grouping inside of that factor. So let's go ahead and do our factoring by grouping, and we're just going to group the first two terms together and group the second two terms together. So starting with the numbers in our first group, we have 4 and negative 28. 4 and negative 28 are both divisible by 4, so I'm going to go ahead and pull out a 4. And this one has 3 x's, this one has 2 x's. So I can pull out 2 x's because they have 2 x's in common. So I'm going to pull out 4x squared. I can't take away 3 x's because this one only has 2. So the maximum number of x's I can take out is 2. All right, and in the parentheses, we're going to write what is left over whenever we divide these out. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, so those numbers are going to go away. X to the third divided by x squared, we're essentially taking away 2 of the x's, so we're just going to be left with x. Negative 28 divided by 4 is going to give us negative 7, and x squared divided by x squared is going to give us 1, so we're not going to worry about the x. All right, now one thing that people always forget whenever you're factoring by grouping is this, whatever sign is in the middle right here, that is going to need to come down to the next part. So since there was a minus, we're going to move the minus. And now we can work with the others. 9 and 63 are both divisible by 9, so I'm going to pull out the 9. But we pulled out a negative 9, so this is going to be really important. Do not forget that we pulled out that negative. So since we pulled out negative 9, negative divided by a negative is a positive, so we're going to get positive x. And then 63 divided by negative 9 is going to give us negative 7. You know that you did this correctly if you get the same factors on the inside of the parentheses. So we got x minus 7s together. That means that we did this correctly. We can draw a little smiley face. And guess what our factors are? One of our factors are x minus 7, and the other is 4x squared minus 9. So we have x minus 7, and we also have 4x squared minus 9. Okay, but this is not factored completely because notice that our second term is actually a difference of squares. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this as a difference of squares. And we just did that up at the top, so let's just use this as a reference. Okay, so we know we have our term x minus 7, but we need to rewrite this one as a difference of squares. And rewriting it as a difference of squares, we can write it as the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of x squared is just x. So we can rewrite it as 2x squared minus the square root of 9 is 3. So using these two things here, 3 squared, we can rewrite this as first term plus second term, so 2x plus 3, and then first term minus second term, so 2x minus 3. And this is our completely factored form of this 4-term polynomial. Quartic polynomial. I couldn't think of how to say that. Okay, so let's move on to problem number 2. And we're going to do the exact same thing, grouping together the first two terms, grouping together the second two terms. In the first two terms, there's just 2 and 1. So you can really only pull out a 1, but we're not going to pull that out. And then we have 2 x's here and 3 x's here, so we can pull out 2 x's total. And whenever we divide that out, the 2 is still going to be there. There were 3 x's, I'm taking away 2, so now I'm left with 1. And x squared divided by x squared is positive 1. We're going to bring down the number between, or the sign. So we had a negative, I'm going to bring that down. 14 and 7 are both divisible by 7. So I'm dividing out a negative 7. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, so negative 14 divided by negative 7 is positive 2. I didn't do anything with the x, so I'm going to leave that there. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so negative 7 divided by negative 7 is positive 1. We know we did the right thing whenever we get the same factors on the inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to draw a little smiley face. And now we have our two factors. X squared minus 7, 2x plus 1. And x squared minus 7 is not a difference of perfect squares because 7 does not have a perfect square. So unfortunately, we cannot write that factored any further there. Okay, let's do 2 more examples. And a lot of times the easier ones, a lot of people get a little bit tripped up with. So let's do number 3. All right. The first thing is that there is not, or it's 1 and -2. The only factor you can pull out is a 1. But since pulling out a 1 is just not really doing anything, we're going to pull out an x squared. And there were 3 x's, we took away 2, so now there's 1. And taking away the x squared here, we're going to be left with -2. We're going to bring down the sign, so I'm going to bring down the plus. And x and -2 don't have any factors in common, but they do. Every single term has the factor of 1 in common, so we're going to pull out a 1. And we're going to be left over with x minus 2, because anything divided by 1 is itself. So this is actually going to give us our same factors in the middle. So we can draw our smiley face, all right? And our other factor is x squared plus 1. Now, the reason that a lot of people get tripped up on this problem is because they will not pull out a positive 1. They'll just write it as x minus 2. And they'll get that the answer is x minus 2 times x squared. But that's not entirely true. Our whole answer is x squared plus 1. And that's the piece that you wouldn't have gotten if you pulled out the 1 times x minus 2. And that is your answer. Even though x squared and 1 both do have perfect squares, they're not a difference. They don't have the subtraction, so we cannot simplify that any further. Okay, and let's do our last problem. Grouping our first 2 terms together and grouping our second 2 terms together. In the first 2, I have 3 x's here, I have 2 x's here, so I can pull out 2 total. There were 3, I'm taking away 2, so now there's 1x. And negative x squared divided by x squared is -1. Going to bring down the sign. 2x and 2 are both divisible by 2, but I'm dividing by a -2. So -2 divided by -2 is +1, and I'm left over with an x. So you can write 1x, but then it won't look exactly like this, so we're just going to write x. And then 2 divided by -2 is -1. The factors on the inside of the parentheses match up, so we know we did this problem correctly. So we can draw our little smiley face. Okay, and our factors are x squared minus 2, and then x minus 1. And it doesn't matter which one you write first, so this one I'll just write x minus 1, x squared minus 2. Okay, I'm going to do a very short video after this, just to show you that it doesn't matter what order you put the 2 middle terms in. So if you would like to see that I could put, I could switch these 2 up and you would still get the same answer. So we are going to do that again in our next video, so please stay tuned. Goodbye. Have a great rest of your day.